So continuing this experiment with cameras and painting and trying to get everything uploaded quickly. I'll show you where we are with the White Scar Biker. He's rougher than I would like, but it's a test figure. I haven't painted white for a while, so it's gonna take a little while. The reason I say I haven't painted white for a while, even though you've seen Sanguinary Guard and things like that, is because I didn't paint them white. I painted them off-white, and these I'm actually going to paint white, not grey, not cream, white. So here he is, and what he's got on him at the moment. White gives me some issues with exposure. What he's got on him at the moment is base coat. So what I do, excuse me, is go through and apply every tone so that I can see kind of a sketch of what the figure's going to look like. These are the paints I've used thus far. So I'm using Reaper Master Series White, Bloodstained Red, which is another Reaper paint. Comes from a red triad that I'll use on the reds. Eandon in the chapter and fast attack markings. The Cayman Green is literally just on the ammo box, and he's holding a grenade. Intense Brown for the leather bits. This is part of the Andrea colour black set, which is great when you need a really dark grey or a black that isn't a black. This is the second shadow from that box, and I've used it on the tyres. It's very matte as well, so it gives a kind of rubbery feel to things. It's really good. Earth Brown for the base. This is a Black and Steel, which is another Reaper paint that I've used on the metallics, and of course black, which at the moment is only on the base edge. So that's where we are. What I'm going to go in and do next is everything else is pretty much where it needs to be tonally, but the red. So I need to bring up that red so they get a proper read on it. I'll bring up the red. I'll hit some of the areas of the model with Army Painter Strong Tone, which is kind of like an Aggregax Earth Shade kind of tone. I'll use that on the metallics. I'll use that on the earth, maybe the green accents. Obviously not the white, because it would completely change the colour of the white. I do still need to bring up some of the areas of white and smooth out some of the areas of white. So that's on the list, so we'll get that done. But I'm going to start bringing up the reds. So we've already gone in with Bloodstained Red as a base. The other two colours in the triad are Clotted Red and Carnage Red. These triads are quite well balanced in that the first colour is always quite a heavy pigment. It's a good application, and these are subsequently slightly more translucent than each other, so it takes a few coats to build them up. But the results are pretty good. I've used them on this is the Minotaur I painted the other day, so the reds on the on this guy are the same set of colours. Let's see if I can get that to pick up. Yeah. It's not really showing its true vibrancy. You can see where we are, so I'm going to have a go at that. So I'm going to start with the Clotted Red. Listen out. I'm going to dilute this. I always dilute my paints. What is in here is just a mix of water and Liquitex Flow Aid. It just helps break the surface tension. Now I'm not mixing by adding a drop to a drop. I'm putting the water here and putting the paint there. And I'll mix on my brush as I go and as I work out what I need. Let's get situated here and see what we're up to. So yeah, I am a brush licker as well. I don't recommend that, but I've been doing it too long now to change my habits. So let's get that sorted. A bit more light from this side might help you. Okay, so I wet the brush and then I pick up some paint, move it around, and then I go to the model. But obviously I'm not going to totally cover the colour I've already got, or there would have been no point laying it down in the first place. So I'm going to mostly cover it. I'm going to leave it around the rivets, and I'm just going to try and leave a little edge of it. It's not something that you'll see on a small area very easily, but hopefully it will inform the richness of the final colour. So I don't know how well this camera's picking things up. Not very, I think, is the answer. Let me move over a little. That's better. So I don't know if you can see that in there where the thinned paint is settled, there is a darker line. So I'm going to paint this new red up to and just short of that line, so that I keep it. And each subsequent layer of this red I do will be on a slightly smaller area. Am I in short? Not in focus. So it's going to take a little while though, because it'll fool you, this paint, because it goes on quite dark, quite rich, and as it dries, fades slightly. So you can see it's going to take another coat to lift that and pick that up, and then another coat and another coat and another coat, and yeah, it's not a quick process, but you get into a kind of meditative state with it, and you just get on. And it's not, we're not talking the work of days, and the results are much better than just kind of blobbing on one colour. Now you see I screwed up there, because I touched the white with the red. So I'll go in, I'll wet a scrap brush and quickly lift that off. You saturate the pigment like picking up watercolour from a block, and then with a slightly drier brush you kind of lift it all the way. Mistake fixed. Trying to work around, you can see I'm working around a lamp and a camera. So let's get some more of this layer in. Yeah, I've gone off. The trick is not to neglect any areas, because if you're going through stages and layers like this, you'll get to a point where you've brought everything up to a place you're happy with. But if you keep missing an area, then that area is going to stand out. So I need to be a little bit methodical. Can't really see very well, can you? I'll work on this. It's just a combination of where to put the camera, and actually as far as your ability to see goes, it's about the exposure as well. There we go, screw it up again. Because the problem with what you're seeing here isn't, this isn't very clear. It's not really easy to see, and that's the exposure. Because if I take something that isn't as stark white and I put that down in front, you see the details quite easy to see. Yeah, even through the bag you can see surface detail. But then we take something that's white and it's washed out and it's overexposed. So that's what's happening here. It's overexposing the white. There's still a little fuzziness, but if you look at the detail you can see in my hand compared to the model, it's an exposure thing, not a focus or a camera quality issue. So I need to go in and try and find the fixed exposure settings for this. I think you can just kind of control, well, there isn't an aperture, I was going to say control the aperture, but you control the digital aperture. But I need to find that in Windows 10. I haven't played with that yet. So this is now just going to be an exercise in layering up. These reds, putting on those washes, and once I've done that, a final kind of highlight pass, clean up the white, and I'll probably call it done after that. We'll see. I'm not going to make you watch me paint up a load of red, because it could get quite boring for both of us. That said, I mean, one of the reasons for doing these as videos is I've learned a lot more about techniques, and I say this to my students as well, a lot more about art techniques, painting, stuff like that, simply by watching someone who's been doing it a while. Things that you don't get told, things that aren't in books and don't make it onto articles, like how you hold a model. Simple things like that. I always keep a finger on the model, my little finger, and it helps stabilise me. So I'm doing that instead of this to attack and approach the model. I've got a stabiliser there, and I'm working with that. That's not something I would necessarily normally think to tell somebody if they were asking me, how do you paint, what do you use, what do you do? Nor is it something they would think to ask. But by watching somebody paint, you can see how they move the brush, how they hold the model, how they hold their brush, how they fix mistakes. There's another one. And that's stuff that you're not going to get normally. So I do think there is value in watching people. I mean, what I tell a lot of my students is find somebody whose drawing you like, and find footage of them drawing, and just watch it. Just watch them work. Things like, Jim Lee, absolutely amazing comic book artist, and there's YouTube video of him drawing at cons, so it's not the way he would draw a panel necessarily, but you still learn so much from it. This will make you quite jealous. But like I say, nobody wants to watch hours and hours and hours of it, so I'll keep these to short bursts. I don't know what time we're on to now, but I'm going to try and keep these, each one's down to 15 minutes. So I'm going to keep going through with this red, and then I'll go to this red. In the few places I need a really bright specular highlight, I will add a little fiery orange to the red for maybe highlights in the eyes or an edge highlight. And then I'll do those other things I talked about. I'll put some washes on, I'll put some more browns in, some greens in, I'll put some dry brush across the base, and then we'll come back and have a look at him when I've done all that. I hope you're finding these useful. They're fairly easy to do, so unless somebody screams at me to stop, I'll probably keep making them whenever I'm working on a model. Thanks for watching.